We are officially Facebook Live, guys. Welcome back to the Tres Leches podcast. Yours truly, Radimus, Ray, whatever you guys know me as, with my
Red Soul.
Yes, sir. With my partners in crime here. Introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
Zo.
Oh, you want me? Okay, you know what it is. Zo the God, Rensmatic, Rens, whatever your flavor of the month is.
Hey, B Stacks in the building. I got my OU to LL tonight. I'm talking about LL a little bit. All my jazz people, baby, we in the house.
Like I said, he went with the Kango Rens. I don't know if he's throwing hints at today's topic. I don't know, man. I'm concerned.
Hey, never know.
All right, so yeah, welcome back, guys. This is episode 3. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube. Our first 2 episodes. One, we covered the legendary Tredge from Naughty by Nature. Episode 2 was on is politically and socially conscious music declining in the modern era, which brings us to episode 3. We will be talking about rappers who need to possibly hang up the mic. So we might insult some of your favorite rappers today, not to be mean, but we already got a couple of upset messages based on the promo that went into this episode. So, I threw up some pictures on the social networks, just to see, would people agree? So we definitely got some hate mail already. We'll be talking about that in the episode. So specific to this episode, the reason why I wanted to go into it is, so it's 2020. It's been the weirdest year in history for all of us. But now we're entering a new decade of hip hop, right? So what we're doing is we're taking a look at the previous decades. We're not just picking on an era. We're just looking at all of hip hop. Anybody that is still rapping that we feel should either hang up the mic, or I actually wanted to throw something in, maybe pivot into something else. So one thing I wanted to throw out, and I want to know if you guys agree with me, I oftentimes draw, and even rappers draw parallels between themselves and athletes. Even Floyd Mayweather can't stay in his prime forever. You know what I'm saying? Michael Jordan couldn't stay in his prime forever. Everybody has a prime, everybody has a peak, and then eventually there's that you come down, just because that's just time. Time is undefeated. I think it's just a matter of with music, who can sustain better when they're not in that prime anymore. So I think some artists do it better than others, and I think how we wanted to kind of kick it off is start with the obvious guys, right? So if you saw our promo, so if you saw our promo, LL actually wasn't in there, but one of the promo images that went up had an image of like the big brand guys, right? Jay-Z, Eminem, Kanye West, and Lil Wayne, right? So those are guys that they still seem to have the backing, the mainstream, the machine pushing them. It seems like they can almost put out anything and they'll get all the promo in the world. So the first thing, before I actually even go into some of our choices of who we think should hang up the mic, I want to see if we could come to a consensus, right? Based on what you guys have in mind, what do you guys consider, what is the criteria or parameters that you think, like when you say, yo, this person fell off, that person fell off, what are the things that come to mind that make you say that they fell off? What are the attributes that maybe they once had that they no longer have? Or is it a combination of a few things? Is it just album sales? Is it because they just went independent? Like, what are the things that trigger you to say, yo, they don't have it anymore because of this or that?
I think part of it's like desire. I think one of the artists I'm going to mention later, I think time frame too. I mean, if it's a situation, because not like the 90s anymore, where you can, let's say, take a 3 or 4 year break and then drop the other album. We're in a society now, is almost like if you don't drop that album within the next 2 years, people are saying, yo, he must be falling off, or he must not have that hunger anymore. So I think part of his timing. Obviously, I think, ones who are forcing things now are trying to be more trendy for today's time versus staying in their sort of niche or making that slight modification. You know what I mean? Right.
What about you, B Stacks?
I think that hip hop is always going to be originated on child's play, man. Like just being a young man's game, because it started in the infancy stage. I think that when you don't sound cool anymore, and like we can like interpret what cool is, when you stop sounding cool, I feel that's the fall off. Like I don't judge. Like numbers come later, but for me, man, it's like when you lose that cool effect. That's the fall off.
And just to add on to that, I know you mentioned like young man's game. I think we're kind of pivoting where how some of the other genres are right now, where now the older vets are still able to shine. I mean, we look at, some of the obvious like Nas, Jay-Z, but even like Run the Jewels, you look at Killer Mike, LP, they're well into their 40s and they're still making relevant music and still hip and trendy enough for the kids. So I think now it's still a young man's game, but I think it's starting to, the playing field's evening out a little bit.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add to this before we just start, going into names and stuff, is I actually don't think it has to do with age, because we also have, I think Renzo just listed a couple of examples that I was going to name as far as people that are in their 40s that can still do it. Now, I agree, they may not necessarily be setting the trends like the younger people do, like younger people do, which I think happens in any genre. But like even Big Boy of Outkast, he's still carrying the torch for them. He's in his 40s. He can still do it. But I think those are examples of, like you said, Killer Mike. I think Black Thought, Pennsylvania's own. That's you guys right there. He's tearing up freestyles right now. That
those guys,
the generation. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, those guys. I mean, and I didn't mean to stick to age, but those guys still sound cool. So
they still have a cool factor when you hear them.
They got that. Yeah, they got that it. But go ahead, man. We can flow on.
Okay. No, that's cool. All right. So then, without further ado, we're gonna go right into it then. So to start off with some of the more obvious stuff, I think we kind of had our own internal conversation. We were looking at some of the big brands, like I mentioned before, that constantly get that push, even when they may not sound as cool, or they may not have those steps anymore, like a boxer in the ring or like a basketball player. So when it comes to the big brand guys, Jay-Z, Eminem, Lil Wayne, Kanye West, or any other big brands that I'm not naming right now, who do you think, right, should either hang it up or maybe even pivot? Like, what do you like? You guys already know my answer, but I mean, collectively, I'll go first. I think based on the promo that we were doing, and it kind of was, I didn't mean to always pick the songs to kind of give it away. I think out of like the big brand guys, I think Eminem may want to consider either hanging it up or just pivoting, try to strengthen his producing like his counterpart Royce does. The reason for that isn't just because, like, people who know me know I've been critical of Eminem his whole career, even when he was in his prime, going back-to-back diamond. I oftentimes feel like with him, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, I feel like ever since he came back and pretty much really after relapse, the thing that made him legendary was his flow, the way he could maneuver on a track, fast, slow, with rhymes, how he emphasized consonants, vowels, anything. He used to have his way with beats. I think he struggles on beats, even when he's picking beats that are now like 2020 friendly for the listener of now. I think he tries to catch up, whereas it felt like he used to be the bull rider on the bull, when it came to beats. Now
that's a good metaphor.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the Toro and stuff, the Matadors. Now, like that, I feel like the beat oftentimes is the bull, and it's carving him up. I think he has moments where he's able to kind of find his footing, but he's forcing it a lot, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but Eminem, as far as like the big brand Hollywood guys, that's my vote.
He ain't my one, but Eminem is, he's looking old out here as far as I'm not gonna say old, but he looking not as sharp for sure. For me, you want me to go up?
Oh, I'll piggyback off of him, and then
okay.
But I know who you're going for, but I'll piggyback off. I'm gonna piggyback off of you too.
It's not LL Cool J.
It's not Ja Rule either.
Respect to the light skin. no colorism. No colorism, I swear. But this is a piggyback off of you. I think the problem with Eminem, and it's almost like he has that Dre symptom where it's almost like he thinks it has to be absolutely perfect in his head to how he can manipulate or go on a snare drum versus, more of a bass line as far as the flow. And I think he works so much on that, it takes the overall feel of the song. Because now it's like, oh, watch me do this or watch me do that. And it's like, dude, that's rap. You know what I mean? Don't even think about it. And honestly, he was better on drugs.
Oh,
I think so. I think sober M is very is too critical on
Not
himself.
healthy.
I think he overthinks it, you know. And I think that's where it kind of reflects on the music today versus then, where he might not have been fully focused on everything, obviously, because he was intoxicated. It was less thinking, there's more doing at that point, you know.
And I'm gonna lick a shot at some Eminem fans here. I think the way people defend modern day Eminem, so they'll say something like, "Oh, but he did all this rhyming and said all of this." I don't think he, the application, right? Like just because somebody rhymed fast, it's like, okay, but did it sound good over that beat? You know what I'm saying? Did that beat need you to cram all these words into this short amount of time, or did that track call for what you applied to it? And I think people will just say because he did a thing. Oh, you know what I mean? Like that automatically will make the song great.
Yeah.
That doesn't always result in great output. So I mean, I just think you know, like you know what's weird? I liked Kamikaze. You know, it was a short album. I thought, okay, maybe he's pivoting in the right direction. But then when he came out with this new one, the Music to Be Murdered By, I heard a lot of the struggle flowing and content-wise too. That's another thing that we should call out here. Like I don't think his relationship records are ever really like that, like exciting, or like they don't really draw me in like that. You know what I mean? Like when I think of rap,
Superman?
Love.
Wasn't feeling Superman?
Yo, that's one out of, man, he's got a lot of clunkers, man. Like, let me tell you, I wish he was dropping Supermans, man. You know? His recent stuff, it's not inspiring in my opinion. But yeah, I would say of the big brands, Eminem would be my vote. If anything, if something constructively, he was somebody that was once working on producing. Sometimes I think maybe he should kind of pick that back up and kind of expand on his sound a little bit more. I'm nobody to tell anybody how to run a career, but I'm just, you know, this is barbershop talk here. Like these conversations are happening whether we're on Zoom or not, is all I'm saying.
Definitely.
So if we mentioned M, what? Oh, my bad. Go ahead. I was gonna set you up, but go ahead.
Yeah, I respect you guys, man, but Eminem is he's not even third in my goal list.
Oh.
So for all the Eminem stands, yo, don't come at me. I didn't say Eminem. I'm still trying to live out here. Come at them. 1, 2.
Well, I can take you back. I didn't really say that was my choice, but
that is 100% my choice. Fight me.
Right. So I'm gonna apologize right now to Ray's mom. I know she follows the podcast. We love you, mother. Apologize to Zoe's mom. Apologize to my mom. You know what I mean? Because I'm about to get a little disrespectful, and I apologize to Kanye West's mom. You know what I mean? You know, because you know, God bless the dead. You know what I'm saying? But Kanye West is a complete piece of shit. I'm gonna tell you.
Yo, just pretend there was a flex bomb right there, all right? We'll edit it in the future.
Like, go away. Like, I can't think of another artist who has done the multitude of damage to his own culture by lieu of making horrible music and also degrading everyone else around him. So, and I think my thing is, and I'll cite LL, this is why I'm on my LL bag today. I'm gonna talk about LL later too, but you know, LL and Big Daddy had their moments where they kind of got canceled, where like, you know, they weren't the in rapper. It happened to LL like freaking every other year. You know what I mean? Like LL had like at least 3 different like seasons of when he was like nah, we're not rocking with LL. Like he's on some different tip.
Yeah, he had to adapt. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just for the listeners, man, I educate you guys. In 1988, 87, 88, Chuck D, Karis One, Boogie Down Productions, they had the Stop the Violence movement, and they had rappers just come out to the cities and speak. And LL showed up with like his jewelry on, his chain or whatever. And like, you know, that was the time where everybody's on their African medallion tip. You know what I mean? And Black Power, you know, the X hats was popular. And LL was like, yo, like I'm bucket hat, gold chain, you know, Rolex watch. Like, that don't make me less black. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still me. And LL got a lot, and his content didn't really reflect Afrocentric. So
Yeah, not at all.
LL got not at all, and L got flagged. Like L was like put in the trash can. You know what I mean? And which was not right because L his heart is always in our culture. You know what I mean? And like like in hindsight, 2020, we would all like go back and be like, damn, like L caught he just caught a bad time. It was just a bad time for him in that fragment. But like white people didn't do that. Black people gave LL the business. Like, yo, bro, what do you want right now? So here's my thing. Greater artists have been canceled for less. So like Kanye West, why is this dude, why do we still care about him? And I'm talking to our culture. I'm not talking to white people. Why do we still give a shit about you? Because what are you doing? You're not making, you're average producer at best. And I mean, I guess that says how good a producer he is because, he still can make average beats even if he's not on his best. But what are you doing, bro? What are you doing to forward us as a people? You know what I mean? Like I will agree with y'all guys. Like M got a little sloppy. We could say like 50 had a huge fall off. But like at this point, bro, Kanye West, I don't want to hear you no more. Like go away. And it's like you have to rave and rant and complain. And it just he's an abomination to Black culture. I'm sorry. And I'm gonna get off this soapbox, but my thing is, why do we still give a fuck about you? Like, fuck you. Like, move on. Like, so, I don't care about you.
So when did that happen? So when you think about Kanye's career, like I think about how he started. I love those first 3 albums. I felt like he brought he was really like in the heart and soul of hip hop. So for you, right, it's because he's your choice. We've seen what kind of like A-lister he's grown up. When was the point of I'm not rocking with him no more? I don't like this. And even sometimes like the celebrity status has a way of ruining one's enjoyment of music. That happens to me with a bunch of artists. But so I would say musically, or when would you say like as of 808s, a dark fantasy, where you were like, nah, like when was that moment of impact?
Yeah, so people were talking like 808s, to me that he was being creative. He's been an artist. He's been different. Dark Twisted Fantasy even. And I gave Kanye a couple years because he's always an artist. I'm like, all right, I may not get it. I didn't get Graduation when it came out. I'll be honest. It took me a year later to get Graduation. You know what I mean? To understand like, oh, this is a banger. And even with my Dark Twisted Fantasy. So for me, when he started violating, it was Jesus' album. Because he was saying, he was making comments, lyrical comments that was just like, bro, like, it's hard to stomach, kid. You know what I mean? And I think after Jesus, I mean, it kind of just went down. Life of Pablo, I like that. I like the album, like sound-wise. But the lyrics are just, they're just like, dude, I'd rather listen. If I have my teenage nieces with me, I'd rather play NWA, F the Police with all that foul language that they have in that song and let them listen to The Life of Pablo and all the other mess after that.
Yeah, I personally think he's been kind of on a decline. Probably like from Life of Pablo on. I feel like he puts a lot of emphasis on wanting to be like an artist that I don't know, like every lane ain't for everyone. I'm not saying that there isn't stuff that I didn't like, but I think his best output was like when he produced B for Common, when he was doing the beats for Rockefeller, when he was doing his early albums, there was something there that it was a version of him that my ears just genuinely enjoyed. Like some people will say, oh, it's just because you guys are getting older. And yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like some people will think, yeah, like, oh, it's because you're getting older and you don't like the music. Like, I don't like when people assume that evolving equates to like, okay, then it's automatically better, right? Like the next thing isn't always the best thing, right? And you can even apply that to sports, right? There's athletes that set records, You know, like basketball, you guys follow basketball more than I do. But what I'm saying is every basketball player who was younger that came after Michael Jordan, for example, or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, were they by default better than those guys just because they were younger and newer? No, right? No, there's still a certain something that certain acts can pull off that's hard to that's hard to follow up to. In this case, I'd be comparing Kanye's earlier career to his later career, and I just don't think musically his stuff has become more exciting. I think it's become less exciting. And I don't think he tries to be a rapper anymore. He makes songs like a pop act, which, hey, if you want to do that, fine. But I just don't think it's the most exciting, personally.
Yeah.
My bad. I had some connection issues, man. But and I apologize for my language because I'm in the mental health community, I'm in the counseling community. But like my dude made a mockery of mental health. Like I'm just done, bro. Like you're talking. You have an album about.
Oh yeah, he's breaking up a little bit here. Renz, you still with me?
Yeah. No, so with you. I'll just jump in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, and then I'll transition us to the next joke. But go ahead, man.
I mean, and I'm on the same page both with you, with Ye, obviously, and M. I think I didn't put Ye fully there just because I'm looking at it. If he can go back to maybe more of the producing aspect, then I'm cool with that, as long as he don't pick up on mic again. Honestly, I think a lot of this stuff, to me, honestly, went down after graduation, after he stopped using the likes of Rhymefest, GLC, as far as like his co-writers are concerned, when he starts transitioning more into Pusha T, more into Sahai the Prince, I think that's when you start seeing his content, drastically change, at that point. But as far as a rapper's rapper, I honestly have to go with Jay. And it's like, to me, I think if he honestly retired after the Black album, he would really, to me, retire on top. It's like once he came back, he's literally, to me, been the Jordan 45 period. No, Jordan went back to 23 after a couple of games. Like, you know what? I need to go back to my old self. I don't think Jay ever had that old self again. We saw with Watch the Throne when he tried to cater to Kanye's fan base, more or less. And even with 444, as good as the content was, he had that struggle flow going on too. And he's always, to me, literally been a hit or miss. As much as American Gangster album gets much praise, and I love the album, but to me, it's just a watered down version of Reasonable Doubt. So I can listen to that album, but so much to say, well, wow, this is just, this weak version at this point. So I look at Jay as far as a rapper's perspective, that he kind of needs to, fade out at this point. Just focus on your artist, or, focus on your other endeavors at that point. Because Lil Wayne to me been irrelevant since the Emmett Till line. So I could care less about what anything Lil Wayne does. He was always overrated to me from onset. So he wasn't even on my mind. But I think as far as just a rapper's perspective, I think definitely Jay should just, fall back. I would be good if he didn't, do anything other music, outside of what he's done, currently at this point.
Yeah, and I would just like to mention, like when he did Kingdom Come and American Gangster, if you're just judging bars, he still had it. What he wasn't able to do when he got back was be the guy to put albums out that felt like he was leading the culture anymore. And when he came back, he was disconnected. So, because I always tell people, if you want to compare raps, compare Kingdom Come to 444. Kingdom Come Jay would spank 444 Jay. Easy.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And the other thing I would say, and he's definitely like, after American Gangster, his steps, he was another one where it was just like, dude, like, why are you flowing like that? Like, because it felt like, yo, you in your prime wouldn't sign you now if you heard yourself rapping like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. He did sound reinvigorated a lot on the new Jay Electronica, but it is still kind of funny to hear him on his Hovtep grind, because like his steps as a rapper sounds better than ever, but it's just like, it is, even for me, I'll listen to anything he puts out, but I'm just like, I've never heard him say Allah so much on an album. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that's an adjustment. But
well, let me ask you this, and when you mentioned Jay Electronica, that's my number one target right now. As far as dudes who fell off, I have a grudge with Jay Electronica.
So you want to just so let me stop you there. So do you want to just go into like, all right, besides the brand acts, if you were to go into like rappers that you think should just hang it up, the lesser known guys, is that your first one?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so go ahead. Let us know.
I've been thinking about this for the past week, and it's been really pissing me off, because here's the thing. Jay Electronica came out in 2007. So he came out with the Act 1 mixtape. Was less than 20 minutes long. Off that mixtape alone, and his guest features, we all held him as a God tier MC, period. Nobody was thinking about Kendrick. Nobody thinking about J. Cole. We said this dude is the next one. He's the next Nas. He's the next Jay-Z. He got all their flavors together.
Yeah, he had an acclaim that you don't get. Like there had been popular guys before him that buzzed, but he almost had that savior label on him. Yeah.
Like he was anointed to be the one, not one of the ones, but the one. So imagine you come out in 2007. You had a couple of little other mixtapes here and there, and they're mostly just because of your guest appearances. And then we wait 13 years. All right, we wait 13 years for 8 verses. 8 verses. And then have somebody who's one of the greatest MCs of all time on every track other than 2, one being the intro and then this one other song.
Yeah.
So when I heard, okay, because remember over the years, remember he got signed to Rock Nation in 2010. So at that point, Exhibit C still buzzing. That's being played on the radio. This is off the strength of this pure lyricism. Well, Brandon say something?
What was that, Brandon?
He's having Teddy problems. I'm just gonna continue.
All right, go ahead.
So Exhibit C's buzzing. He gets signed to Rock Nation. So 2012 comes around. Oh, album about to drop. Nothing happens. And then year after year, we hear Shiny Suit Theory. Okay, album about to come out. Nothing happens. So announce it. And then we waited, like I said, 13 years for essentially a Godbody album version of Watch the Throne, which ain't just, the album itself is not even a bad album. But that's
you gotta watch the Kofi. We gotta watch the Kofi album. That's what it was.
But it wasn't debut. We didn't wait 13 years for a collab album.
He never fell on though. How's he fall off? He didn't fall on.
Well, he didn't. Well, I look at if I had to wait for 8 verses after 13 years, if he was supposed to be anointed the one, lyrically it wasn't a bad album. But I'm saying, as far as a debut album is concerned, that's not a debut album to me. That wasn't what I was waiting for all these years for, essentially a Jay-Z and Jay Electronica album. To me, that showed me that you were nervous. That showed me that you weren't confident in yourself to really put out a true debut album. He could still had a 30, 40-minute album with just him. And I would have been cool. But essentially, he was like, I'll do a verse, Jay do a verse. I do a verse, Jay. That was so wild. That doesn't show anything to me.
So basically, would you say based
on
that?
He could fall off. He never fell off.
So would you say you never want to hear anything? That's a good point. Like that's the same. Did he ever achieve his potential to fall off from it? I think is what Brandon's saying.
Yeah, he didn't fall on. So
my thing is, but he was already anointed as a top tier MC, is what I'm saying, and that's my whole thing. It'd be one thing if he had a couple albums and dropped off. This is supposed to be your statement now, and to me that wasn't a statement. So to me, and that in itself is a fall off because we waited 13 years for the one, and you essentially gave us a collab album. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm coming at. Lyrically, it wasn't like he was that bad on the album. But that's a group album. That's a duo album. That's not a solo album. Him as a solo artist fell off. You want to say, hey, that was a group album with him and Jay? Cool. You did your thing. But to say, hey, I got Jay on my debut album, and this is gonna do that, this and that, and it's literally just 8 verses. You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
I agree with that.
I mean, he got nervous after Kendrick, on the Control verse. I don't know. He got quiet. He'll do little tweets, but that was it. So
I like when Ab-Soul slapped his hand when Jay Electronica, he threw shots at I think Kendrick, right? Ab-Soul, what did he say? He said, hurts when your OG that's supposed to be a God is standing next to King Kunta feeling like Toby. I was like, Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love that. But all right, so your choice is Jay Electronica. I'll be honest with you. I'd be curious to hear another release from him because I don't feel we've had enough. That gap in time was trash. I always hated that each year, 2010, 2011, 2012. Oh, album coming this year. I always hated that. I think that's music business. Me personally, I would want to hear something else from him. But if he is gonna go long gaps, my interest will just dwindle because it's just like what's the point? Yeah. What's the point of waiting? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if Act 2 ever comes out, which it should come out, and it's everything we expected, then everything I said was irrelevant. But Act 2 never comes out.
Just Blaze says it's ready. Yeah. I watched a Breakfast Club episode. Just Blaze pulled out his cell phone because they asked him about it. He said, I have it right here. He went to it. You didn't see any track names or anything. He said it's done. But okay, so you going with Jay Electronica. Brandon, you want to go or you want me to throw mine out?
But I'm having connection issues. I'm gonna try to just go audio real quick, man.
All right. So while you do that, I'll go with mine. So I figured we would go when I expanded this topic. I knew we would go rappers, but I'm gonna pivot a little bit since I talked about a rapper already. I think there's a producer that if they don't create another beat again, they're good. They're in the Hall of Fame. They're solidified, and that's none other than Dr. Dre. I think Dre, he's a legend. He is a mega superstar. He's existed in several decades. You know the resume: NWA, Snoop, Eminem. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to, 50 Cent. I don't like to attribute Kendrick Lamar to him because Kendrick and TDE was their own movement. But I think Dr. Dre, not because his achievements are invaluable. No, like I think he's worth his weight. But particularly, I found that in the 2010s, while he was still trying to put out Detox, he could never quite find his footing there. He himself wound up going with the Compton album because he said that he couldn't live up to that his standard on putting out a detox, what Detox I guess should be.
Yeah.
Those first two, Chronic in 2001 were, they were like culturally defining. There were big moments in their era. But I just feel like what I heard from Dre over the period of a decade, whether he was producing on Relapse, honestly not the most exciting production, and just working with other people, what he was trying to do with Detox. I mean, some like with the releases with like I Need a Doctor, which was really Alex the Kid. I just felt that he had a really very cold decade. I understand he also has business adventures. He's worth like 800 million that his wife may take half of now because they're getting divorced. But I think Dre, maybe some of the older guys, it's like maybe he can cultivate new talent. But if Dre was to say tomorrow, I'm not gonna produce another beat. It's just not in me anymore, and I don't want to just throw out anything just to exist in an environment in the landscape. I would be for it. He's, like I said, he's a legend. I just don't think I've heard anything from him great in a very long time. You know what I mean? So
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I mean,
You saying chalk Dr. Dre up?
I would say if Dr. Dre said I'm hanging it up tomorrow, I would have no qualms with it because I think he's gone a very long stretch without anything impressive, in my opinion. And remember, he has a high standard set for him.
Too.
Yeah, and Brandon, I don't know if you agree with me, but he set some really high marks in his career. Like, not every producer that existed in this game in any era reached the heights that he has. But here's a parallel, right? Who's somebody that's like his age that is still working with talent and delivering? Pete Rock. Pete Rock is still able to do it. Pete Rock still puts out impressive production. There's something about him that seems like he still loves it now as he did then. And him and Dre are probably not terribly far.
96 draft, baby.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hit. But
taking him in the draft.
Yeah, but yeah, I would have to say that to not drag this out. Yeah, I think Dr. Dre, if he hung it up tomorrow, man, he's solidified. He doesn't have to do any more, and I haven't been impressed by a lot of his output in like pretty much a decade by this point. So what about you, B-Tox? Who's your other choice?
My bad, bro. I've been having connection issues this whole entire time, man.
He's gonna pick Teddy Riley just cause.
No, Teddy. I got the mama. I had to go to the mama for good luck. You know what I mean?
Oh, rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P.
But never hear again. Damn. Well, shit. I shouldn't have said Kanye, huh? Damn. Never hear again. Wow.
Or even, you know what, to kind of make it like, or that they should step away.
You got
one. Okay. Okay. My bad. I thought you were. All right. Okay.
Yeah. But y'all not gonna agree. A lot of people not gonna agree because he's Alicia Keys' husband.
Oh no, I 100% agree. Please.
Swiss Beats.
Yes.
Stop.
Yes. Yes.
Please. stopped making beats. Like I wasn't the big, all right, I give him the Rough Riders, like 9'8", 9'9", even a little bit of 9'7", 2000, man, he was killing the game, Mid 2000, he did what he did. But even out of that, like I'm not the biggest Swiss Beats fan. So I'm talking to the Swiss Beats fans out there. After 2006, what did he do that you liked?
You know what? The issue with him, yeah, he's very hit or miss. Like when he has one, it's out the park. Even after 2006, he definitely had hits, but it's like I personally wouldn't entrust him to do a whole album because I think he doesn't have enough variations in his sound to hold down a whole album.
And to just get like real like analytical real quick. He's just very repetitive. You know what I mean? Like his beat selection is just super repetitive. You haven't really evolved on your craft. And like he started with the Casio, you know what I mean? Like the fleet is murder. Like, that was an early Swiss joint. And that worked. Like, and then he amplified it. He did, but now like he's been stuck. To me, he's been stuck in like the mid 2000s. And dude, just stop, yo. Just go and buy art for Jay-Z.
100%
Picasso, baby. I think he produced half of that. I think he produced half of that track too.
Oh man.
All right, so and I'm like I like Swiss, but I like Swiss in like a playlist way. You know what I mean? Like I said, like you said, that 98, 99. Anybody who disagrees, I think that was like his peak. Like if you do a top 10 best Swiss Beats list, it's coming from that era in particular. But he's had a lot of he's really had a lot of moments that even as somebody that did enjoy his sound, he's had a lot of Braveheart Party. They had to take it off of Stillmatic. I blame Nas for that one too, because Nas, what were you thinking, bro? Like that was such a bad choice.
Terrible.
That was just
that was terrible.
Like now when I refer, like if there's an album,
Chris Webber. Chris Webber.
Chris Webber.
Yeah. I'm ready to take C-Web.
Yeah, man. Yes, Swiss has he's inconsistent. He's very inconsistent. His drum programming, but he's kind of solidified, so he's always gonna have that attention. But he won for life. He got Alicia Keys, so
yeah.
All right, so then so then let me ask you something. Now maybe we haven't said the name of an artist for this next topic. Maybe we have. And Brandon, you mentioned something kind of off air that I liked. Who, based on this topic, could make a comeback? Is anybody that we said, do they have do they have it in them that you think, okay, are they too far removed to ever come back, or can they come back, at all? And who do you and you said that you felt you had examples of people who did stray a bit and then eventually were able to get back in line. So
can I go first on this one?
Yeah. Because that was Who do you think strayed and came back?
Thank you. So I mentioned these two guys earlier. I said LL first, but I'm gonna give the listeners a history lesson real quick. Big Daddy Kane. Now when people hear that name, they hear hip hop respect. And I had an older brother, I had older cousins. You know what I mean? So they was like, they'll put me on the EPMD and guys like that and Kane. When I was like little. And so when I got old enough, I bought the albums and the vinyl and stuff. When I had the money to do that. But what people forget, Big Daddy Kane was the hottest single in the streets. First two albums, 87 and 89. After 1990, Big Daddy Kane was cold as ice. Like no one wanted to touch him. Like he wasn't selling records. Different from LL. LL was like kind of got blackballed from black culture in a sense, and he kind of he was still selling records because white people still bought his records, but LL wasn't the hood favorite no more. Where it was like Kane lost the hood favorite, which is like the backbone. You lose the hood favorite, your career is done. And I feel like Kane was able to revive himself I can't speak for Kane, but if I could, I would think that he would thank Little Brother, because in the early 2000s that that revival for like hip hop came back. You know what I mean? With Rawkus and Odyssey and Kev Brown and Little Brother. And I remember hearing Big Daddy on that North Carolina track.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he had moved back to North Carolina. They got Kane back on the track. And Kane was doing little features on, like, Big L's album. You know what I mean?
Picture,
Yeah, he was doing little features, but like he crept back in through hip hop. So like he earned his way back in, and now like Kane is like, he performs like, well, now not this year, but I've seen Kane like 6 times. Me and Zoe have seen Kane. You know what I mean? Like he's a faction of like hip hop right now. Like he's relevant as far as like touring and dividends. You know what I mean? He may not have to do an album, but he's a great example to me as a person that was like left for dead. And I said LL has done it like 3 times, dude, in like 20 years. I mean, LL is just impeccable. But to answer your final question, Ray, out of the people that are in the now, I really feel like my main job, baby.
You think it could be murder again in 2020?
It could be murder again. It could be done. All y'all rappers, y'all big Ja Rule.
Yeah, it did seem like the industry turned its back on him. All right.
I could do it, man. I got faith in Ja, man.
All right, so you said Big Daddy Kane was the one who was left for dead and did come back. Ja is somebody that you think can do it. He gets the right resources around him. He can command an audience again to some level, right?
Yeah. LL too. But
LL too.
He's in the early year.
All right, what about you, Renz?
I think somebody who's literally left for dead and not only brought back his career, but also a record label in the movement was, rest in peace, Sean Price. I mean, when you look at Sean Price, he literally went from, let's say, the weakest link, quote unquote, in Helter Skelter to now the man on Duck Down, when, especially when Duck Down by mid-90s, especially going to 2000, was pretty much left for dead. And for him to go from Ruck to now, I'm going to go with my own persona, and I'm going to let you know, I'm the broker's rapper. I don't got these chains. I don't got this. I'm hustling 2A pagers, and crack. And I'm going to let you know what I'm going through. I got a wife who can't cook. I'm going to let you know. He was very unadulterated. And I think especially during that time when I was feeling, especially during the ringtone era, when I was like, man, I'm not really feeling hip hop like I used to feel. I didn't really feel that love anymore. He kind of brought me back in and said, you know what, I'm still here for you. When Monkey Bars came out, I mean, that was to me literally a breath of fresh air, literally. And what he was able to do as far as having that cult status with him, and that's literally improved with each album performance, and it's just sad that his life was cut short, because I think he still had a lot, to get into the game, because he was doing stuff with Black Milk. He had the Random Acts Project, with the Detroit Lane. He had stuff with Ella G. Obviously, he reconnected with Rock with Helter Skelters, but he had his hands in so many different pots where I think his potential was still there. I don't think he was nowhere near his peak, But as far as somebody I would like to see one last hoorah, I'm gonna go with Kiss. I mean, especially from the verses from Monday Night, it was like he never had that classic album. Like he literally should have been the one after Jay, as the new face of hip hop. He had all the recipe. It's just that it never formulated, for him, how I feel is trying to please too many different lanes at that point. But just hearing all the bangers and stuff they did, and just the writing, that he did for Puff and other artists, is like, dude, like if he just had the right producers and just the right mindset, you say, you know what?
He's got
I'm just
bars.
Work
he can still rap his ass off. That's what it is.
Exactly.
He can still rap his ass off.
Yeah,
he just doesn't make
he's
them.
a weird
he doesn't
one.
put it to good music. Yeah.
Exactly. Like if
He's
you
a
talk
weird one.
mixtapes or whatever, collabos there, but when it comes to the albums, like it always falls flat somehow, some way outside of 1 or 2 albums, really, honestly. But if Kiss can get his last hoorah, to really show I'm really one of the top 5 that are alive, I would want that more than anything at this point.
Nice.
All right, so I think mine.
Ja Rule, man, damn. All right.
Yo, so my to answer those very questions, my two choices kind of tie together, and they actually tie into something else, and this is because musically it like strikes me a certain way. So the answer to this one's kind of weird. So in terms of who drifted and then made a comeback, so I want to go with A Tribe Called Quest. Now with them, it's a little different because they had internal issues. So
Yeah.
I know that by the time you got to, like, was it Beats, Lives, and Rhymes, right? No, excuse me, not that. The Love Movement. That's
Love
98.
Movement,
98,
yeah.
Love Movement.
Oh, that was a fall off.
Yeah.
Beat
The
Rhymes
Love,
Live. That was a fall off. That was
Yeah.
a fall off.
yeah, you know what it is? I like it, but it's not the first three. But I agree with you. Oh, there we go, right there. Low End, that's my favorite Tribe album right there. And that's probably the dopest Tribe art ever. So, but what I'm saying is, after, I believe 98 was when the Love Movement happened. And, they weren't where they once were. They actually collaborated with a lot of, I felt like a lot of current artists in that time that were popping too. They went like, what, 13 or 16 years without an album. Obviously, there was a lot of internal issues, especially with Tip and Fife, rest in peace. They turn around, they drop an album in 2016, and they didn't just drop an album and all, A Tribe Called Quest. No, they dropped arguably the best album of that year. They sounded like a unit together. Q-Tip was hungry on the boards. And how amazing did Busta Rhymes sound as a feature on there? He could have passed for he's always I know they're like native tongues. I know he's always worked with them. But if they would have been like, yo, Busta Rhymes is the official newest Tribe Called Quest member, he blended right in. Some of my favorite moments on that album are his features. So I feel like they went from pretty much, yo, we're never getting an album from them, they're never going to get it together, to dropping also what I consider a decade standout from the 2010s. That's the Tribe Called Quest for me. And it's a shame that Fife passed away too, because when you listen to that album, it sounds like they can give you at least two more of that caliber. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Ray, you would want one more from them?
Well, now it's without Fife, I don't think. I don't know, unless they got some.
I feel like
Fife verses.
I feel like that was the last hurrah.
No. So to me, they're the ones who I feel, like they were
Who did it?
They were left for dead, and then they came back and made a hell of a statement with an incredible album. So I'm sorry if I didn't express that. So now to answer the other question, who I think should come back, and this ties into it, Busta Rhymes. I feel that he's had a string of just bad solo albums. He's been chasing hits a lot with his last few releases. We've had a long gap of time since we've gotten a proper Busta solo, but in 2016, like I said, those features that he was doing on that Tribe album showed me that when you put him with the right resources, you can get an outstanding album out of him. I've always, Renzo, I've said this before in like the hip hop groups, the only other album that I want from Busta Rhymes is I want him, and they've done this mixtape, but it's kind of a playlist. I want him and Q-Tip to lock themselves in the studio.
Into the Dragon, baby.
Yep.
Into the Dragon.
I want them to do an official album. I think that's what would bring Busta Rhymes back from the dead. He would just stop chasing the hits. He's got plenty already for him to be chasing anymore. When I hear his verses, his energy, he's like a ball of energy. I've seen him live. He can still do it, but he needs the right coach. And to me, Q-Tip would be that coach that could do for him what, like Renzo, like you said, you would want that for Jadakiss. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Well, Brandon, what you said for Ja, the God Ja. You know what I'm saying? If you put them with the right resources, that my choice is Busta Rhymes. That's why I think, that's my choice for that. But go ahead.
Nah, man, you guys, I agree, man. The Last Dragon is a mixtape that he did. That was like basically what you said, unofficial Q-Tip joint mixtape. J Period did that mixtape, so that's for the people. If y'all want to check that out, The Last Dragon.
Oh, J Period, he's got a lot of stuff. He's definitely put out a lot of stuff.
He did stuff with Busta and Q-Tip. It was stuff that they did together, but it was like 4 new songs. Yeah, sure.
All right, so one last question. This is kind of like a lightning round thing. Hold on a second. I had it right here. I've been thinking about too much that it slipped my mind. Okay. Now, there's a bunch of artists that we didn't say here that maybe don't qualify. Who do you feel is on the bubble? Who, like, let's say if we were doing this episode like once a year, who runs the risk of a year from now us saying, you know what, they might want to consider just calling it a career as far as a rapper or a producer or a group, and maybe focus on something else. Do you feel there's anybody who's kind of trending in that direction currently?
Jada and Fab. I mean, as good as they are as artists and mixtape and stuff, the albums always to be fall flat. So it was ironic that they did the verses, seeing how they did the album together, because to me they didn't complement each other. It was almost like all their weaknesses magnified on their dual album. And it's, to me, it's like if they can't, for both of them get it together and get that right proper energy and focus, then they should just fall. Both of them probably should just fall back at this point.
So you think a year from now they run that risk of being on this, just stop, just give it up list, yeah.
When I heard Fab on auto-tune on the Dave East album, I can't remember which one it was, I was like, what the hell? I mean, it was just so horrid. Like,
Wow.
like you were 90s, you know what I mean? You 90s era, late 90s era hip hop, and you trying to do auto-tune for what? Like, to me, that was beneath him. Like, he didn't have to do that to say he's nice. And then it just fell flat. You know what I mean? There's only a handful of artists can really do that, and even them, to me, is kind of whatever. But for him to do that, it was, to me, like a real low for him career-wise.
What about you, Brandon? Who do you think runs the risk of making this conversation a year from now?
So I'm gonna take a left turn real quick, and I'm gonna go in the R&B hip hop lane because that's where things have been going. And popularity wise, he living off of juice. He living off popularity juice. I'm gonna go with Chris Brown. Let me tell you why. Chris Brown is a generational talent. When we talk about Prince, Michael, Madonna, Springsteen, all the 80s guys that transferred into the 90s, all our 90s stars, Chris Brown is one of those guys who is phenomenal. But like, he has constantly underachieved year after year. I mean, I think I never forget he did an album with Tiger at one point, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're so much more than this.
Yeah, the album with Young Thug.
Can't make this up. Yo, and people sleep. Like, your window, like Lil Wayne once was the everything man, and then once you slip, bro, it's a steep hill. Lil Wayne can't get back up that hill. He's done now. Like, he's done. Like, his time is maxed out. And I know what I'm saying. It's probably crazy to people right now for Chris Brown. It happened for him as well. Like, the window that you have of people's attention is very limited. And
especially in this era.
I love Chris Brown, especially in this era, bro. And he is literally, he is living off of just who he is, like just off his natural ability and not of product, because he hasn't had good product in a long time. And that stuff catches up with you. You know what I mean? You just can't earn a product. This is a product industry, like we're saying, right? So this is a product industry. What have you done for me lately? And he has not done anything lately of value up to what he can do. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna put a CP on this joint, man. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go CP.
All right. So I think we what's it called? So to wrap this up, my choice would be this one's a little controversial, but I'm gonna throw Nas in this conversation. So and there's only one reason why. So he dropped one of my favorite albums of his career and of the past decade with Life is Good. Like, I'll put Life is Good against so many independent releases. Mainstream really in 2010s really ain't saying much, but I loved that album. I really did. How he was. But then he took But then he took that break that all artists seem to eventually do at some point. Like, that's longer than 2 years. You know what I'm saying? He took like a 5 or 6 year break. He came back with Nasir. I was able to enjoy that album, but I knew that this wasn't the best we could get from him. And that wasn't the best we were getting from Kanye. Like, I was able to like enjoy it because I like hearing from Nas. But I mean, some people just flat out hated it. I didn't hate it, but it was kind of like, it was a step down from, what he had did previously, especially when he had such a long break in between albums. You know, usually you can kind of collect yourself and you should have more to say. Part of the blame for me, I think, on that album is Kanye wanting to just do 7 tracks. That 7-track approach, I thought was never going to work. Then Nas dropped the following year. He did Lost Tapes too. Now, again, as a fan, I know I like it, but now he's kind of just dropped back-to-back releases where it's just like, all right, I'm not saying every album's going to be Illmatic, Stillmatic, it was written right. I'm being realistic here. But I feel that he needs to push himself a little more because the last 2 releases are just kind of there. You know what I mean? I think if people kind of, if you do your Nas album catalog, I think the last 2 releases that came out wouldn't rank terribly high from somebody that you know you can get it out of. So I feel like it's been rumored that he wants to do a solo album. And the reason why I won't put him in the washed list because Nasir was Kanye wanting to do some 7-track thing because whatever, art. So I don't feel that was completely on him. Lost Tapes isn't an official Nas album. So what I want to hear is if he's dropping this year, like I believe they said it, I want to hear an official solo, no 7-track limitation, no leftovers album. I want to hear Nas in 2020. Where are you? And I have faith in him because whenever his back was to the wall, he gave us Stillmatic. When he was in the headlines because of his relationship, he gave us Life is Good. You know, whenever his back was against the wall, oftentimes in his career, he's shown that he can deliver and give amazing output. But as of right now, and this is just a fan in me, I'm gonna just throw him in this, you know, a year from now, we might be saying, damn, Nas dropped another album that didn't really, you know, hit like that. Where is he now? You know what I'm saying? Can he do it anymore? So that's my choice. So yeah, guys, I think we're pretty much wrapped up here. We had some interesting answers here. I didn't expect the Chris Brown. What's it called? We got the Jay Electronica, which was also left. I'm telling you, when I thought about this and when I thought about what you guys might say, none of those answers crossed my mind. So that was good. You guys definitely surprised me here. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, this will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. Look for us, Tres Leches Radio on YouTube, Tres Leches Radio on Twitter, Tres Leches Radio on Instagram. Tres Leches Radio on Google. You type that in, you will find us, okay?
Yeah.
So everyone enjoy the 4th of July, guys. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to our sign-off.
For all, you know, black, brown, and red, that's not our day. Still eat some food, but nah, that ain't our day.
Yeah. 4th of July, just the day off the job.
That's cookout. It's just cookout day. That's all that is. That's all that is.
What about you, L. Coleman? Any last words before we sign this off? I don't think he could hear me. Brandy, can you hear it? Mamba.
What about that man?
All right.
That's it.
R.I.P. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Catch us for episode 4, which we will be revealing the title within the next coming week. All right. And well, the dog. See, my homegirl's gonna love the dog. Sandra's gonna love the dog.
All right, peace.
All right, peace. Tres Leches Radio.